Good evening and welcome to Politics Nation. Tonight's lead, no end game. Tonight, the president says he's not ready to make a deal with Iran because the terms are not good enough yet, in his view. Of course, Washington State and the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. Yesterday, Donald Trump said that Iran was ready to make a deal, but that he was not, quote, because the terms aren't good enough yet. And of course, he never said what those terms are, other than Iran must give up nuclear ambitions. He did say that several countries vowed to help the U.S. reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but declined to name them after he leaned on the UK and other countries to send warships to the strait to protect tankers. Is there a strategy here that you can identify, Congressman?
Well, there's no path to achieving that strategy. It's hard to figure out what the strategy is. You can sort of cobble it together between all the different comments, but there is no path to achieving what that strategy would be. And I mean, it's got two basic parts to it. One, they want to degrade Iran's military capability, which is fine. And they've been doing it for the last 2.5 weeks now. Frankly, Israel's been doing it for longer than that. But to what level? What's an acceptable level of degrading their military capability? The administration has not made it clear what that is. And the part of the problem leads into the second thing that they're trying to do is, okay, so we degrade them. We blow up a bunch of missiles. We blow up, drone factories, a bunch of ships, whatever. If the Iranian regime is still in place and still hostile, they are capable of rebuilding. Which brings us to the second objective, which would be to change that, either to eliminate the regime and have it be replaced with some new group of people in Iran who actually want to stop exporting revolution and terrorism and focus on Iran, or even if the bad people are still in charge, Trump has effectively broken them, would be the goal. So they wouldn't dare be hostile to U.S. interests going forward. There's no evidence that they're making progress towards achieving that second goal at all. However much they may be degrading Iran's military capability, when this is all over said and done, it seems like you're going to have a hardline Iranian regime with friends in Russia, friends in China, an ability to rebuild. And let us not forget the cost. You mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. This is costing us between $1 billion and $2 billion a day. The debt's going up. We've lost the lives of 13 service members. Countless civilians have been killed. The global economy has been disrupted. Of course, we have the bombing of the girls' school in Iran that is just an enormous tragedy. So the cost of all this is enormous, and there's no clear path towards achieving the objectives that the Trump administration will occasionally talk about. Now,
our condolences go to the families of the 6 U.S. service members who were killed this week when their refueling aircraft crashed in Iraq while serving U.S. operations against Iran. The Pentagon says it's still investigating what happened, but has ruled out hostile or friendly fire as the cause of the crash. That brings the U.S. death toll thus far to 13 service members and one who died of a medical emergency. Meanwhile, more than 2,000 people have died across the region so far. As the ranking member on House Armed Services, what are your thoughts on the human costs we've already seen?
I think they're enormous, and I think this is a lesson that supposedly we had learned. And look, after 9/11, after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and everything we were trying to deal with and all of that in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya to some degree to deal with Muammar Gaddafi, there was this feeling at the end of the Cold War that we were the world's sole remaining superpower. We had a massive amount of military might, and we could sort of shape the world. We could take care of these bad guys and these bad governments and build something in its place. Well, what supposedly we learned over the course of the last 25 years is that was a heck of a lot more difficult than it looked, and it never turned out the way you thought it would. It frequently turned out worse, and an enormous cost in lives, in money, and just the disruption of all of these countries. So Trump said during the campaign, I've learned that lesson, I'm not going to do it. And here we are once again relying on the military, on blowing stuff up to think that that's somehow going to leave something better at the end of it. It just doesn't work as simply as it seems. And I understand the impetus. I mean, Iran is a terrible regime doing terrible things. If there was some way to simply remove them and get to a better place, I'm not opposed to that. But we see the cost and we also see the uncertainty. You absorb the cost, the lives lost, the disruptions, and then you get to the end of it and, oh gosh, Iran's still there and we still have the problem. This was not the right approach, in my view, to containing the threat from Iran.
Now, U.S. allies in East Asia are on alert after North Korea fired several ballistic missiles towards the sea off its coast during joint military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea yesterday. This comes as the U.S. has reportedly started moving air defense systems out of South Korea to serve its military operations in the Mideast. Congressman, are we leaving U.S. interests vulnerable elsewhere in service to this war?
Absolutely. I'm very glad you asked me that question. I was actually on with some of your colleagues on MS Now, and one of them asked me this question, and I lost track of it and didn't directly answer it. Yes, U.S. readiness is being hurt by this because we are putting a lot of our munitions, a lot of our troops, a lot of our forces are concentrated on this war with Iran. And obviously that is depleting our munitions, but we're cannibalizing our forces in other parts of the world. We've also seen the impact on the war in Ukraine. Russia is getting a lifeline from the boost in oil prices, and then President Trump foolishly has removed the sanctions on Russian oil, at least temporarily, in a way that strengthens Russia, weakens our hand in stopping them in Ukraine. And yes, in Asia, both North Korea and China have to be aware of the fact that we are distracted, that we are pulling resources out of Asia and we are weaker there than we otherwise would be. And our forces are not as ready as they should be. Again, that is a cost of war. It's not as simple as apparently Secretary Hegseth and Donald Trump think it is. We're going to just go in, we're going to talk tough, we're going to put up these video game like memes and blow a bunch of stuff up, and then we, flex and we win, and the world is the way we want it to be. I just wish people knew that that is a dangerous, dangerous way to approach policy and the use of our military forces.
Well, I can say you always answer direct on Politics Nation with me, so let me ask you this. The partial government shutdown over DHS funding hit the 1-month mark yesterday, and there's no apparent end in sight. Initially, Democrats forced the shutdown, but have since offered concessions. Now Republicans are rejecting Democrats' bills to fund DHS agencies like TSA while demanding reforms to ICE and Border Patrols in their tactics. Where do things stand on the Hill, Congressman?
Republicans are playing politics with it right now. Now, they accuse us of that. But remember, the reason we did this is because ICE is out of control, violating the rights of Americans all over this country. No probable cause, no due process, excessive use of force, unchecked and unaccountable. So those reforms are important, and we should keep fighting for them. But there's a simple solution to this, and that is what you alluded to. Fund TSA, fund the Coast Guard, fund the rest of the Department of Homeland Security. Just don't fund ICE. If you're not going to reform it, we're not going to vote for those funds, but we will readily vote for the funds elsewhere. Instead, what the Republicans want, desperate to distract from this disastrous war that Donald Trump has driven us into and the worsening economic news that we hear on a daily basis, they want to say it's all those terrible Democrats playing politics and they won't fund TSA. We will fund TSA. You put it on the floor, we'll vote for it. So right now, Republicans are playing politics with that. We got a simple solution. Fund the DHS portions that we all agree on, and don't fund ICE. We'll see if they change their mind and stop playing politics in the next week or two, because we need to fix this problem. TSA agents need to be paid.
All right. Thank you, Congressman Adam Smith. We're going to continue this conversation with my next guest, South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, who recently announced he is running for an 18th term. Congressman Clyburn, the Transportation Security Administration is one of the most diverse federal agencies, with nearly 30% of workers being black. As I discussed with Congressman Smith, this weekend is the first full paycheck these workers are missing due to the partial government shutdown. New reporting shows that 300 workers have quit and more are calling out. Take a listen to what the TSA union head said.
People are not calling out sick or calling out sick. The issue is they simply have no money to purchase gas, no money to pay their rent, the mortgage, child care, or the basic necessities such as food, Pampers, formula for the infants. It's a very dire situation.
What are your thoughts? How do we fix it?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Reverend. And I fix it, if it were me, the same way you just heard from Congressman Adam Smith. He is absolutely correct. The fact of the matter is, this is an issue about ICE, not anything to do with TSA, not anything to do with FEMA, nothing to do with the Coast Guard. All of these are wrapped up in this bill that the Republicans are refusing to put on the floor. We will vote for them, but we are not going to fund ICE to continue killing people, to continue masking themselves so no one can identify them. I just left Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. When law enforcement people are wearing masks, that carries a very significant connotation to me and others with my experiences. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, as well as your viewers. And so take off those masks and conduct yourself like every other law enforcement person, and we are satisfied with that. They're refusing to do it simply because they don't want you to know who they are when they violate your rights, knock down your doors, drag you out of your automobile, throw you down to the ground, stomp on your head, and even shoot you. They don't want you to know who they are.
Now, you've served in Congress for more than 33 years, but you have recently announced you'll be running for your 18th term. Why did you decide to continue to fight? How did you come to this decision?
Well, as you know, I sat down during the Christmas holidays with family members, most especially my three daughters, to let them know that this was something I want them to chime in on. We'd always have this Christmas holiday family meeting when we look back and look forward. And of course, there was a split decision on that. Two of them right away thought that I should run, and one of them was a bit reticent, wanted to see the polling data, wanted to talk to more people. And that one came back with the rest telling me that support for my running again was very extensive in my congressional district. And as I said, I just left Charleston, and it is pretty extensive down there as well. The entire peninsula of Charleston is in my congressional district, and they all support my running again. And one lady said to me, "We don't need you listening to those people up there. We sent you to Washington to represent us, and we want you to stay there until we'll let you know when we want you to leave."
Yeah, I saw you quote that in your announcement. The South Carolina Daily Gazette points out that you are just one of 7 Democrats and 5 Republicans over 80 who've announced they're running for re-election in 2026. Of the members of the 24 members of Congress of any party who are 80 and older, only 7 have announced their plans to retire after this term. And truthfully, you could be retired and spend your days fishing. I know you previously said you've stayed in office because there's still work to do. What do you say to those who believe it's time to pass the torch to the next generation?
I agree with them. And I work very hard every day. I have for the last 11 years I've been selecting 40 to 50 people, young people, that we keep years around training, getting them up to snuff on the state and the nation and the politics to be. In fact, several of them are running for office this year. And they are among the group that prevailed upon me to stay. So I do what I can to prepare young people to accept the challenge when the time comes. I don't have any problem with young people. I bring as many of them into this process as I possibly can. And as you know, the first weekend of August every year, I give out 200 scholarships to high school graduates, helping them pursue college educations, give every one of them a laptop, every one of them a software package so that they can get a jump start on their college educations to help prepare them for the future. So I'm not staying because I don't want to see anybody else come into the process. I'm staying because they are among those who say they would like to see me remain. My health is good, and so I decided to remain.
Well, I was with you in Selma, Alabama for the commemoration last Sunday at the church before the march, and I could say you probably go up the stairs quicker than most of the young people there. Congressman James Clyburn, thank you for being with us. Coming up, more of the state of the black economy in the era of Trump. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis joins us next. And as Hollywood's biggest actors take to the red carpet, we're expecting to see both artistry and activism on stage at tonight's 98th Annual Academy Awards. We'll have a preview of what to expect ahead. Welcome back to Politics Nation on MS Now. What do you